Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Kodanitai Maya Poshashi Kodanitai Maya Poshashi Kodanitai Jaya Maya Poshashi Ishkan Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Reading from Srila Prabhupada. Final instruction. Oh, sure. But Srila Prabhupada was always transcendental to this world, and he showed the conditioned souls that they could too come to the stage of liberation by constantly thinking about Krishna and serving him, so that at the time of death they could return to Krishna in the eternal spiritual world. And Prabhupada's lessons were always practical and universal. Srila Prabhupada's books, for example, were not mere theory, but were practical and full of realized knowledge. And Prabhupada practiced what he preached. His entire life was exemplary. He had been in family life, and even when he had vigorously preached by starting his Back to Godhead magazine. In poverty and obscurity, he had struggled to start a spiritual movement, and by the grace of Lord Krishna and his spiritual master, he had become successful. He'd always shown by his human-like attempts his willingness to bravely take on austerity and face danger. He alone in old age had gone to a foreign country and had chanted Hare Krishna in a park in New York City, attracting the young men and women of America. Therefore, everyone should take his example and try to serve Krishna despite the immediate impediments. Srila Prabhupada ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 1, entitled The Lord is Equal to Everyone. And this is text 34. Shri Yudhisthira Uvacha Kidrisha Kaja Va Shapo Kidrisha Kajava Shapo Hari Dasa Bhimashana Hari Dasa Bhimashana Ashradeya Ivabati Ashradeya Ivabati Hare Ekantinam Bhava Hare Ekantinam Bhava Shri Yudhisthira Uvacha Kedrisha Kashava Shapo Haridasam Bhimashana Ashraddaya Ivabhati Hare Ekantinam Bhava Shri Yudhisthira Uvacha Kedrisha Kashava Sapo Haridasam Bhimashana Ashraddaya Ivabhati Hare Ekantinam Bhava. Shri Yudhisthira Uvacha Haridasya Vimashana Daya Atmani Tinam Bhava. Shri Yudhisthira Uvacha Kidrisha Kashava Shapo Haridasa Vinashana Ashraddaya Ivapati Hare Ekantinam Bhava. Shri Yudhisthira Uvacha Kidrisha Kashava Shapo Haridasya Vinashana Ashraddhaya Ivapati Hare Ekantinam Bhava. Shri Yudhisthira Uvacha Maharaj Yudhisthira said, Idrisha, what kind of? Kalsha, whose? Va, or Shapa, curse. Haridas, the servant of Hari. Abhimashana, overcoming. Ashradaya, incredible. Eva, as if. Abhati, appears. Hare, of Hari. Ekantinam, of those exclusively devoted as exalted attendants. Bhava, birth. Translation. Maharaj Yudhisthira inquired, what kind of great curse could affect even liberated Vishnu Bhaktas, and what sort of person could curse even the Lord's associates? For unflinching devotees of the Lord to fall again to this material world is impossible. I cannot believe this. Responsibly please. Maharaj Yudhisthira inquired, what kind of great curse could affect even liberated Vishnu Bhaktas, and what sort of person could curse even the Lord's associates? For unflinching devotees of the Lord to fall again to this material world is impossible. I cannot believe this. Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In Bhagavad Gita 8.16, the Lord clearly states, Mam upacha tu kauntaya puna janma navidyate. One who is purified of material contamination and returns home back to Godhead does not return to this material world. Elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yovasita krita chikvadeham puna janma naitimam eti sojana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. O Arjuna, Maharaj Yudhisthira therefore was surprised that a pure devotee could return to this material world. This is certainly a very important question. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hari Rama 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 Hari Hari Vanchikalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Varidhanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. So Maharaj Yudhisthira is asking how Jai and Vijay fell in the first place, and at the same time, so Srila Prabhupada doesn't try to answer that. So maybe it will come up in the next few texts. He just explains the other side, which is what Maharaj Yudhisthira is thinking, is that one doesn't take birth again, who's purified, and one who knows the transcendental nature does not take birth again, but retains my eternal abode. So that's the general understanding. That's what Maharaj Yudhisthira understands. And at the same time, it's being said that a devotee has fallen from the spiritual world. So Srila Prabhupada said one of his last instructions was, don't get into the jiva issue. Did you know that? And they printed a book. The GBC put a book together called Our Original Position. And it was discussing the jiva issue. And so there's different references to where the soul came from. But Lord Chaitanya says somehow or other. So if you ask Jayananda Prabhu, why is that cushion over there? And if Jayananda says somehow or other it's ended up there, then that's it. That's as far as it goes then. So Lord Chaitanya said, somehow or other I've fallen into this material world. Ainanda tanuskinkaram padidam vishvame brahmado kripaya tavapada pankaja stita duri sarijam vichintaya. Fix me as a particle at your feet. I don't know how I got into this mess. I don't really care. I just want to get out. Just like when a person is diseased and he's dying of some disease, and then he goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, how do you think you first became infected? Do you think it was when that lady sneezed at the bus stop 3 days ago? And the person's dying, he's saying, doctor, I don't really care, but please help me now. I'm suffering. I haven't got time to work out where the infection came from. I just know I'm sick and I want to get healthy. So we don't have the time or the inclination to try and work out how we've gotten here. We just know that we are here now, and we want to become more aware of Krishna, understand Krishna. Srila Prabhupada did say that it was possible for a living entity to fall again, but he said it's very, very unlikely. He said once bitten, twice shy. So it's because the living entity always has independence, but you may come to the material world unknowingly, but once you know, when you get out of the material world, you're not going to want to come back again, you know. Any questions on that? it came out a few years ago, and I read it, but I didn't come to any real conclusion after reading it. And I don't know. They didn't pursue it anyway. Obviously, Srila Prabhupada foresaw there would be certain problems. He also said, "You'll show your love for me by how you cooperate." So he kind of foresaw that the main impediment for devotees is the ability to cooperate. And if a devotee says, "Oh well, I really do love Srila Prabhupada, but I just don't get on with these devotees at all," then how much does he love Srila Prabhupada? Well, there's three types of devotees: Kanishta, Vajjama, and Uttama. So for those of us who come to the stage of the Majjhima platform, then we are lifted up out of the feuding and the fighting of the neophytes. And we're able to see the bigger picture, that these are devotees, these are non-devotees, these are the innocent, these are the demoniac, this is Krishna. He's able to see four things: Krishna, the demoniac, or envious, the innocent, and the devotees. He's able to distinguish. And because he's able to distinguish, he's able to associate nicely with all the devotees. But whatever level the devotee is on, still respect. Everything is underpinned with respect. We respect devotees in the mind from a distance. Krishnati Yashagiritam Mana Shadriyeta Dikshasti Panatibas. We offer our pranams to those who are Diksha initiated. And we associate with and faithfully serve those devotees whose hearts are completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So we have to learn the art of how to navigate through the spectrum of devotees. And it is an art, actually. It does take knowledge and study and acquiring skills to learn how to associate with everybody in such a way that there's still respect there, but that we don't allow their opinions to affect us. And we only open our hearts and minds to the Uttama Adhikari, whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. And how a devotee is criticized, Dristai Svabhava Janate Vapasasta Dosha, Naprakritatami Habakta Janashapajya, Ganga Samna Gola Budbada Pena Panki, Brahmadavata Mabagachti Nirodamai. Just like there's bubbles and foam in the Ganges, but we bathe in it anyway. So we may see some very, very big idiosyncrasies in devotees. We may see a devotee continually doing something that a spiritual master has told him not to do publicly. Or we may see a devotee that's coming from this place, or a devotee as being in a body that is fat. And so therefore we discriminate against the devotees rather than see beyond the bubbles, foam and mud and bathe in the association of the devotees regardless of these material impediments. It's quite a challenge to do that. To not see with mundane vision means we have to not be mundane ourselves. We have to become purified. And so that's the tricky part of passing from Kanishta Adhikari to the Majjhima Adhikari platform. Is Kanishta has a tendency to make mistakes and offenses, and those offenses impede his progress and slow it down. And then Kanishta Adhikari is at the stage of Anatta Nivritti. He's trying to get free. Anattas. He could be in the Anatta Nivritti stage practically all his life. And finally he breaks through and he comes into the Nishta, and he's Majjhima Adhikari. And then he breaks into Ruchi, then he is Uttama Adhikari. Then he starts to become aware of his Swarup. So for a lot of us, we'll spend a major portion of our devotional lives battling through the Anatta Nivritti stage, trying to come onto the Majjhima Adhikari platform. Majjhima Adhikari becomes steady first of all in body, then he becomes steady in words, and then eventually he becomes steady in mind. So he's at the right place, doing the right thing, and thinking the right thing, and saying the right thing. But it is a challenge to because sometimes there may be elements in the devotional society that are antagonistic, and Shiv Ramash has just had something which he didn't like, and he says he considers it to be soft Ritvik, and so he's come down quite strong. He's giving classes on. He's going to be giving a big one this Sunday, so we're all being advised to tune in and catch it live. But he's really hitting it hard. Soft Ritvik. What is soft Ritvik? Soft Ritvik is where you say, actually, the only real guru is Srila Prabhupada. He's the one that's taking us back to Godhead. That's soft Ritvik. And Shiv Ramash was making the point, well, what about Rupa Goswami? Stapitam. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Rupa Goswami is the founder. He's the one that's established the movement. Why Srila Prabhupada? Of course, Srila Prabhupada did a phenomenal thing, and therefore he is the founder Acharya. But Srila Prabhupada never said, worship me. He said, worship the Guru. He said we were also Rupanuga, that we were followers of Rupa Goswami. And I'm just reading right now in Vilapakusam Anjali. If you want to go to the highest and most confidential, you can't do it without the mercy of Rupa Goswami. He trains all the devotees, Rati Manjari, Kamala Manjari, they all go to Rupa Goswami, and then they get trained by him, not Srila Prabhupada. So, and what soft Ritvik means is it means we don't have to take the spiritual masters that seriously, because it's not really them, it's Srila Prabhupada who's doing it. And for the spiritual masters, it can be a cop-out as well, that you can't really put a lot of pressure on me. I don't really have to come to such a high standard. I'm just going to take it to Prabhupada, and it's Prabhupada's problem. He's the one that'll sort it out. He'll take everyone back to Godhead for the next 10,000 years. In fact, I wandered into a temple by accident in Bangalore, and I didn't realize it was Ritvik, because I'd heard that ISKCON had taken it over, which they have, but it's in the transitional period. And we're there at Mangalati, and everything seems fine. And then the curtains close, they do the Jayam Vishnupad, and then they say, oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada, the only initiating guru in ISKCON for the next 10,000 years. And then I looked around at my wife and I went, we tried to get out very quickly. That's what Srila Prabhupada taught. And it's funny actually, because we're called ISKCON, and they're called Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. So in that case, when something is antagonistic, there's two factions which are antagonistic to ISKCON. One is the Gaudiya Math, and the other is the Ritviks. So the Ritviks, they don't believe in Acharya. They only have GBC. Nobody can be an Acharya, only Prabhupada. So they just have GBC. That's all they have, GBC. The Ritviks, they only have GBC, no Acharya, apart from Prabhupada. Nobody can be an Acharya, just GBC. And the Gaudiya Math, they don't have GBC. They only have Acharya. And they have all their little mats, and in each mat, the Acharya is there, and whatever he says goes. And if you go to a different mat, there's another Acharya and another Acharya. If they had GBC, they could all form together. So Srila Prabhupada wanted both GBC and Acharya. He wanted living example, the spiritual master. And he there's many places where Prabhupada told his disciples, I want you to be gurus. It's very, very obvious he wanted that. And at the same time, he wanted GBC, so that if a guru does go wrong, still the body of devotees, not all of them can go wrong all in one go. Maybe one or two can, but not the whole body, you see. So you need Acharya and you need GBC. Then there's a chance it'll work. So Gaudiya Math is only Acharya and Ritvik is only GBC. Both need to be combined. And if you look at the difference between just having an Acharya with no GBC, if you go along the Jalangi, you'll see all these mats, and they could all get together and go on the other side of the Jalangi, then you would have the Mayapur Chandrodaya. That's what happens if everybody combines. But if everybody dismantles and fragments, then everything just becomes small little pockets, and not the same amount is achieved, you see. So therefore, we have to become well armed. Shastra is Astra, the weapons of knowledge. We have to be armed with these weapons of knowledge. When we see a deviation, when something is creeping in, and it's not what Prabhupada said, not what Prabhupada wanted, and we have to stamp it out immediately. And we can have respect, and from a distance we can respect them in our mind that they're chanting Hare Krishna. So Krishnati Yajika Krishnati Yajikaritam Mana Shadriyata. In the mana we can offer respect, but we don't accept their opinions. So we have to rise to the platform of knowledge very quickly, and we have to preach and show by example the proper way to practice Krishna consciousness. And it may be that we're weak, and sometimes we do fall down from the standard. But Srila Prabhupada was very understanding of that, because he knows we came from a very heavily conditioned. But what he was really, really heavy was philosophical fall down. Then he would come down like a mountain, like a ton of bricks, because the philosophical fall down can destroy everything. Whereas if someone just has a fall down, they say, "I'm really sorry," and he gets back up and tries again, that's not going to affect anybody else, And there's 4 types of fall downs. One was the philosophical, one was criticizing the previous acharyas. Srila Prabhupada was really, really heavy. That was the worst one you could do, And philosophical, gross fall down. And there was another type as well. But there was 2 that he was very heavy about. He ostracized devotees if they had that type of a fall down. Just kicked them out of society. So we have to be nice and respectful and humble. But if we do see a deviation, then we have to be very strong and fearless and stand up and say, "This isn't right, this is incorrect," Every member of ISKCON, that's our duty, to preserve what Srila Prabhupada has given and not see it become watered down. And basically, it culminates in 2 things, all these deviations. It's okay to have illicit sex, it's okay to take intoxication. All the different bogus philosophies that can be culminated. Yeah. Wow. There's a terrible misuse of the word automatic. And devotees will say, "Look, it's okay. I'm going to automatically go back to Godhead. I'm doing 4 principles. I'm chanting 16 rounds. So I'm going back automatically. So don't get my case." But Shiv Ramanuj makes a really nice point. He says, educated efforts, consciousness is not an alternative, but a result of automatic advancement. So they're saying that automatic advancement is an alternative to making an educated effort to practice. He said, if it was just 4 regs and chants Hare Krishna, why do we have so many books? Why did Prabhupada give so many instructions? Because he wanted us to make an educated effort. So a conscious effort, an educated effort, an assimilation of all the information. He wanted us to read the books threadbare, understand the books, and implement them. And then we would be able to follow the 4 regulative principles and chant Hare. Because chant Hare Krishna, there's one thing where you just and then there's another thing where you're chanting and you're crying, and you're realizing your swarup, your relationship with Krishna. That's actual chanting. So when Prabhupada said chant 16 rounds, he didn't mean chant 16 garbage rounds. He meant chant 16 pure rounds, fully attentive. And if you're going to do that, you will need all the knowledge and information that you can glean from Srila Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada also said, consult the other acharyas as well. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they left a whole wealth. Lord Chaitanya wasn't asking Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Gopal Bhatta, to leave all this knowledge so that we would just ignore it in the future. Srila Prabhupada opened the door and he showed us that there's so much that we can access. And that's what he wants. He wants us to make a very educated attempt at Krishna consciousness. Not going around like a zombie and saying, I will make advancement automatically. I am following the process. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Where is the bliss? I am following everything properly. Like a robot, you know. And then, oh no, it's okay. I'm making advancement automatically. And Guru Maharaj did another book, by Uddha Vikalpa, and it's all about finding out where you are and finding out what the next step is. If you don't take the next step, if you reach a level and you think, well, I'm okay here, you know, I'm okay, that's niyamagraha. Niyamagraha is you're either impertinent, you go too far, or you're lazy, lethargic, and you don't go as far as you should go. You say, no, I'm not on that level, and you actually are on that level, but because you're lazy, you won't take the next step. You just want to stay where you are. It's comfortable. There's no hassle. Why should I take the next step? Everybody has to take the next step. Well, you have to know where you are, and you have to know what the next step is that you need to take. You know? We have to work that out for ourselves. Self realization. Nobody else can do it for you. You can't blame somebody else for not being self realized. I would be self realized if it wasn't for the fact that you are so annoying. And because you're so annoying and horrible and smelly, therefore I can't become self realized. You have only yourself to blame because you're the one. It's self realization. Nobody else can realize yourself other than you. It's your job. You can't blame anybody else for not becoming self realized. You can go into victim mode and say, well, I'm a victim, you know, what you expect? And that doesn't get you back to Godhead. That doesn't help you become self realized. That's not what Krishna is looking for. And it's amazing all the books Shiv Ramash has been doing, all very appropriate. He did one about Diksha Guru, how we overemphasize Diksha and we underemphasize Shiksha. And our line, our Sampradaya is Shiksha, Bhagavat is Shiksha. Bhagavat Marg. Shishikota Maya Pashashi Ki Jai. Shintasilas Maharaj Ki Jai. Yeah, you know, if you get a chance to read Vilap Kusumanjali, it's a beautiful book. And Shuddhabhati Chintamani as well is it's really good. No, by Shiv Ramaraj. And what it is really, it's sketching out a plan of the Bhakti Marg, how you have to navigate it, and he's identifying dangers. Like that's where I got that thing about the two factions that are antagonistic toward ISKCON, and our faith in Srila Prabhupada. We're Prabhupada Nugas, we're followers of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada wants us to become Rupa Nugas, to become followers of Rupa Goswami. Vacha Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udarapasta Vegam, Etan Vegan, Yobishahita Deras, Savam Apimam Prativim Shishishat. Become qualified to make disciples all over the world. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the spiritual master may be, if the spiritual master is Ritvik, then he'll be encouraging you, saying, oh, yeah, you jump over my head and you just go to Prabhupada. So then you do have a problem. Because it's the spiritual master who takes you back. The spiritual master realizes his eternal relationship with Srila Prabhupada and with Krishna, and then he helps you to realize yours. Otherwise, he's not bona fide spiritual master. Yeah. Well, in the case of Kadambakana Maharaj, he's left a wealth of lectures, kirtans, and books to guide the devotees, and it's very much his flavor and those devotees that have been attracted. You notice that spiritual masters have a certain type of devotee that they attract. You can almost say, oh, he's a disciple of Radhanath Maharaj, he's a disciple of Shivaram Maharaj, he's a disciple of Kadambakana Maharaj. They have a certain flavor that attracts that particular devotee. And spiritual master is the eternal spiritual master, Satguru. So you have an eternal relationship with him. So it's no accident that you come across that spiritual master. So the spiritual master may leave after 6 months, but then he will turn around and say to his disciples, okay, well, I'm leaving you. You had my Vapa, and now I'm going to leave you with my Vani. So associate with me through my Vani. Which is that's how we associate with Srila Prabhupada. For a lot of us, we never even met Srila Prabhupada. We only know him through his Vani. And of course, the spiritual master is only encouraging us to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's instructions and follow to the standard that Srila Prabhupada wanted, But it's the spiritual master who takes you back to Godhead. Not Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada has chalked out the path, but he's one teacher in a line of teachers. There's Narottam Das Thakur, there's Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there's Bhaktisiddhanta, there's the Goswamis. They're all a link in the chain. It's not that one of the links in the chain breaks away and says, oh, I'm better than anybody else. I will just directly take you back to Krishna. But yeah, if your spiritual master, and the spiritual master will say, okay, I want you to study Srila Prabhupada's books. It's becoming part of the initiation vows now. Devotees are vowing not just 16 rounds and 4 regs. They're vowing, study your books for an hour. Some of them. Yeah, that's right. And also that I am being connected to the Gaudiya Mat Sampradaya, Gaudiya Madhava Sampradaya, the Brahma Gaudiya Madhava Sampradaya, and I'm being connected and linked. And as my initiating spiritual master, you've brought me into this society of Krishna consciousness. Whereas with the zonal acharya system, it was more that you were tied to that zone and that spiritual master. So it may be that you get initiated, diksha, but then you become attracted to the shiksha of another spiritual master. And by the blessings of your diksha guru, then you can take shelter of the shiksha, which helps you to access Srila Prabhupada's teachings. It's interesting, there's a book by Burijan Prabhu called As They Surrender Unto Me. And it's like holding a lantern up to Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and helping us to understand it more deeply, what Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purports and the way he's translated the Sanskrit in this particular way. So by the mercy of Burijan Prabhu, we're able to go deeper and appreciate more what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And then Srila Prabhupada is helping us to go deeper and appreciate more what the previous acharyas have given us. It's interesting as well in the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada says the best is to take initiation from an Uttama Adhikari. But then if there aren't so many Uttama Adhikaris and there is a dire need for spiritual masters, then it means both Kanishtas and Majjhima Adhikaris can accept disciples. But it also means that the Kanishta and the Majjhima Adhikari, by taking disciples, they'll make advancement very quickly because it's very pleasing to Krishna when he sees the Jiva taking shelter of Guru Tattva. And we get a glimpse of that ourselves sometimes when we're on book distribution. We're really trying to connect and bring people to Krishna consciousness, and then we're able to speak the right things, and we become empowered. So we get a little glimpse of what Guru Tattva is, And then as you take on more responsibility for others, if you're doing sanghas and you're trying to guide people in their spiritual lives, you're becoming more under the influence of Guru Tattva, and then you're getting more mercy and you're making more advancement. And then what to speak if you take some disciples, then you'll rapidly come to the stage of Uttama Adhikari. So maybe there are sometimes spiritual master is a work in progress. He may not have understood his swarup just yet, but potentially he will achieve that, just like we're hoping to. And we're not Uttama Adhikaris right now, but we're hoping that by following the process, we will, because that is part of the path back home, back to God, that you become aware of your swarup. When you're chanting in ecstasy and you're free of the influence of the modes of material nature, these are all precursors to attaining perfection. And it's good to understand what that path is, the Bhakti Marg path, what it is, where I am, and what is my next step. Am I a Kanishta? I am a Majjhima? Am I an Uttamadhikari? Have I realized when I'm chanting, am I going into the Leela? Is it effortless for me to become absorbed in Krishna when I'm chanting? Or am I making offenses? What offenses am I making? How can I avoid making them? We're not just kind of floating along day by day and just hoping for the best and hoping automatically. I'll just kind of, one day I'll just be chanting and I'll just float up over the clouds and Krishna will say, "Welcome home, son." It's a bit more scientific than that. Well, Lord Chaitanya says, Chetadavanavajanam Bhava Maha Devagnyavaram Shankare Vichandrika Vitanam Vidyavadu Jivanam. Vidyavadu is the wife and the life of all transcendental knowledge. The holy name is. And if we were totally offenseless, we could just pick up the bead bag, go on the Bhagavat Marg, and just go back to Godhead. We wouldn't even take initiation. Because we do make offenses, therefore we have to do the Panchatriki, which is the deity worship as well, to help us become clean and punctual. And we get Gayatri, and we take Diksha, and then this enables us to make further steps along the way. But if you're just left and you're chanting Namaparad, then Namaparad, you don't make advancement, you see. It's only if you get proper Sambandha that then you can implement the instructions, and then you can start to avoid. Because our default position in the material world is we are offensive. We just are offensive. That's just the way material energy conditions us to be offensive and mundane. We want to break free from that, so we need all the help we can get. So if taking Diksha helps, doing deity worship helps, and that brings us to the stage of pure chanting, then we should, if reading Shastra will help us also, then we should take all the help that we can get. We don't want to make life any more difficult than it is, any help we can get, anything that's going to enable us to apply Krishna consciousness more deeply, with more focus, with more faith. We have Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra to help us stay in line. One time, a lady was saying to Srila Prabhupada, when I chant, I see this big red light. And Srila Prabhupada said, keep chanting and it will go away. So she had some kind of mental speculation about what the chanting was, and she was thinking this was a good thing, Well, Prabhupada was just saying, just continue on with the chanting. So if it's favorable for you practicing Krishna consciousness, then it can be accepted. And if it's unfavorable, then we reject it. If it's on the mental platform, generally mental platform means it's changing all the time. Whereas if it's on the intellectual platform, Prabhupada said that's almost spiritual. So it stays forever. When something goes into your intelligence, you process that with the intelligence, then that stays there all your life. But if it's on the mental platform, then yesterday you were chanting and you saw a red light and it seemed good, but now you're chanting and you're seeing a red light and you're thinking, maybe this isn't good actually, maybe this is a warning, maybe this is actually bad. So mental platform is duality. So it means whatever it was the day before, it can swing to the opposite the next day. One day it's good to be chanting, to be doing Sankirtan in the sunshine, because it's great, everyone's happy, and you're thinking it's great to do Sankirtan. The next day you're doing Sankirtan in the sunshine, and everyone's got their clothes off, and then it's not so good anymore. Suddenly you're not able to focus on book distribution so easily. So suddenly now it's not good. So there is duality on the mental platform. You can always apply the opposite of wherever the mind is saying. Whereas with the intelligence is linked with your determination. So if a person is very determined in their practice of Krishna consciousness, then it means their intelligence is good. Otherwise, the intelligence is overshadowed by a mind which is uncontrolled, and an uncontrolled mind can ruin the intelligence, even though you know perfectly well smoking cigarettes causes cancer. You've studied it, you've done research on it. I remember I was in an Ayurvedic clinic. It was costing €200 a day when I had a disease of the liver, and the guy was there, the top dog running the whole thing. I was seeing 8 different people a day. One was giving a massage, one was doing this. I was getting that thing where it goes on your head and you lie down and it makes you relaxed. I was taking all these different medicines throughout the day, and he's standing there and he's talking to us about how to stay healthy. And in this top pocket, he's got a packet of Marlboro cigarettes, and of all the ones to smoke, they're the worst ones. They're the most poisonous, and he's there telling us about the health. And I didn't ask him, but I was thinking of asking, do you get to the point where you become so healthy that you can smoke cigarettes? So although he knew so much, but he was too weak to control the mind. I mean, obviously his intelligence would have said to him, this is not a good idea. He knew better than anybody how bad. He was telling us all about our diet and how we should do this, and we get up at this time and do that, the next thing. And then the worst thing you can do for your health is smoke cigarettes. And we have to take him as an authority. So mental platform is not as good as things being fixed in the intelligence. And on the spiritual platform, if you get some amazing experience when you're chanting and it touches the soul, then you'll always chant. You'll never give up the chanting. But if you're chanting on the mental platform, then one day it seems good, one day it doesn't seem good, and then you decide, I'm not going to keep chanting. 80% of the people that start chanting discontinue. There's only 10-20% that continue on chanting because they're chanting on the mental platform. They haven't broke free from the mental platform. The mental platform is like the G-force of the bodily conception, and you have to break free from that. Otherwise, you stay within the orbit of the body. And you may be thinking, I'm chanting, I think I'm pretty fixed up. We'll see if you're still fixed up in 20 years. So it's the urgency is that we have to become so intense about practicing Krishna consciousness that we can connect. We connect with Krishna, we get a full-blown darshan, as quickly as possible in one way or another. That really emboldens us, that really gives us the conviction to keep going. You see with these Srila Prabhupada's disciples, some of them didn't have very much association. Some of them, Srila Prabhupada just said to them, Jai. And that was enough. That Jai kept them going their entire life, It was just so powerful. It really. So we need something we need a Jai to really touch us and really pull us through, so that we can stay committed. And when you're making burfi, you have to boil the milk down, and then it goes thick and sweet. So Srila Prabhupada said, okay, we've watered everything down so much, but now we're cheating the customer. Now we need to boil it. Now we need to boil the milk down. He meant we have to become very, very deep and sweet in our chanting and our reading and our relish of Krishna consciousness. And then we can become burfi. And then when people taste us, they're like, wow, don't know what this guy is, but it's sweet. It's very sweet. I want more of it, So then we become like little gurus ourselves. People contact us and they think there's something different about him. I don't know what it is, but I want to help him. What does he want? He wants to do Rath Yatra. Okay, I want to help him do that. And then you're being empowered. And that's why if you're preaching, you're being forced onto the Majjhima Adhikari platform automatically. Even though you may be a total out of a Kanishta, when you start approaching people to engage them in Krishna consciousness, you get magically transformed into a Majjhima Adhikari. You become empowered. Well, if you're asking them to do the right thing, and at the same time you're humble enough to say, I also am trying to do the right thing, then that has more potency than to pretend that you're doing the right thing when you're not. Because then they can become encouraged. If we were all like Srila Prabhupada, we were all born in Brahmin families and we'd been completely pure all our lives, then people would be saying, well, that's okay for you, But, I'm out of it. How am I going to be able to do this? So Lord Chaitanya arranged it that the devotees would be in all types of situations, and then they would come to Srila Prabhupada, they would take up Krishna consciousness, and then when people made the excuse, oh no, that's okay for you, you say, no, I was a postman, I used to smoke cigars, I was really out of it as well, but I've been able to take it, so if I can, you can, I remember when I first I read Bhakti Godhead, and it was the first time I'd heard that a normal person could be a devotee. Because up until then, I thought when Prabhupada said devotees, it was these persons that had kind of floated down from the clouds and were in the movement now, walking around with shaved heads. And they'd always been like that, And then when in this letter, this person was chanting, but he had a job. And I thought, oh, he's just a normal person. And he's taken up like me. So there's a chance that someone like me also can do it, So people need to be encouraged like that you can come from a very materialistic, conditioned, mundane background. And usually the doors are open for you to take up Krishna consciousness. In fact, there's one cook that I'm keeping in touch with, and he's starting to read Srila Prabhupada's books now. He's chanting on a regular basis. And he loves science of self-realization. He said, I really love that chapter that anybody can see Krishna. That it's not just, the chosen few, but everybody can approach Krishna. He really loves that. It really makes him feel like, God is accessible to everyone and God is all loving. And he doesn't judge people. He just encourages them to come towards him, And it's good as well. The good thing about preaching is because the mind's always telling us that we're really unqualified and we're really unworthy. And then when you go out and you meet people, you realize, well, this person is even worse than I am. Not in a proud way, but just thinking, he could potentially be better than me. But right now his situation is really heavily compromised. And I was thinking I didn't know anything. But then I realized, compared to knowing nothing, I know a lot. Although compared to knowing everything, I only know a little. But compared to nothing, I know a lot. If you have a candle in space, you can see it 12 miles away. Did you know that? They tell us that if we were to go to a part of space where there was no cross illumination, it was just pitch black, and you lit a candle, you could see the candle 12 miles away. So even if you only have a little bit of knowledge in the dense darkness, that's still very significant. Even if you've only got a little candle, you hold a candle up to somebody in the dark, like, wow. ISKCON Guru in the key. Srila Prabhupada ki. All of you ki jai.